Hi everybody, welcome to week number 7. This week is really all about workshopping the word of advice essay. And so I want to really talk to you about uh, how to workshop it and how to get the most out of the workshop experience. So let's go to the modules and let's go to the rough draft number 1 Dropbox. Right. And so you see for this rough draft I asked you to just compose the introduction in which you use a narrative form, and then the first body paragraph which should follow the pie paragraph technique. Right. Now I've also incorporated a little rubric here across the bottom. This is for your responses, and so I want to talk about how to respond to your assigned peer reviews to get the most out of the experience. Now I do want to talk quickly about peer review uh, and my philosophy of peer review. In my philosophy of peer review, the review process is an active process. You, the reviewer, are the one who gets the most out of the peer review experience. And I say this because it's the person who actively thinks about writing and actively provides clear and solid advice who is able to later then internalize that same advice into his or her own drafts, and as a result develop as a writer more completely. The people who get the least out of peer review are the ones who say, yeah, good, nice. You're not thinking about writing, and so as a result, you're not creating the synapses, the mental connections about what makes strong writing. By being critical and being specific, you create those synapses, you create those connections and those brain cells that allow you to critically understand strong writing from not strong writing. That's why the reviewer is central in the peer review process. So focus on giving great advice. In a lot of ways, worrying about what people say about your draft or looking to get feedback from other individuals, that's a secondary kind of what I want to say component to the peer review. Sure, it's nice to get a couple different ideas about what could help your draft improve, but ultimately you don't have to keep, or you don't have to follow any of that advice. You don't have to do what everyone says, because you're likely going to get multiple conflicting sets of feedback. That's why it's so important to give clear and additive critical feedback. That's how you're going to improve the best. So for each one of these little sections here, focus on about 20, 25 to 50 words of feedback in which you're, one, talking about what the writer does well. Let's stay focused on the positive. Where does the writer hit the marks, or where does the writer do a nice job? And then build on what they're already doing well in order to help them incorporate that feedback and help them create a stronger second draft. Okay, so as far as the criteria goes, the introduction is the first thing we see. This is what creates the environment for your reader. If they see a writer that understands them, a writer that clearly cares and has their best interests in mind, they're more likely to continue reading and to adopt the advice that you develop for them. Right? So we're looking for a very warm and welcoming environment in which you really share a specific experience to help that reader identify with you. If they see that you understand where they're at right now, they will be more likely to listen to you and adopt your advice. The almost there is you create a warm and inviting tone, but maybe don't share a specific instance. Maybe you tell the reader, oh, I struggled in high school. Okay, well, it's pretty general. Find a specific story that illustrates just what kind of struggles and anxieties you may have worked through as a high school student, right? And 0 marks go for the writer who is basically saying, you need to do this, you need to buckle down, right? Who's kind of pointing their finger and preaching at the student, right? Nobody's going to listen to that. They're not even going to finish reading the introduction, so they'll never even get to your good advice. So make sure to open up, be warm and inviting, and share your own experiences, being open and honest. For the audience, really full marks comes from having a clear audience in mind, a very specific person. That enables you to really fine-tune your language choices and really envision that clear audience member. Almost there might be a general audience, like incoming freshmen, that is somewhat specific, but is generalized to a group of people rather than a specific person. And no marks if the writer doesn't incorporate an audience at all. Okay. The next three have to deal with the body paragraph. So with the point, what we're really interested in here is that the writer includes a very clear skill or mindset in the topic sentence. One specific, very clear skill or mindset, and that's laid out in clear, active language. Almost there, the writer might include more than one topic, right? Sometimes someone will say, you should have organization and time management. Well, that's two different things. And so that confuses the paragraph a little bit. So if the writer does that, let them know to focus on one or the other. And generally the paragraph that they write will focus more on one of those topics than the other. So point them in the direction that you see the paragraph headed anyway, right? Or 0 marks go for if the writer just didn't really include a topic sentence, or if you were unable to locate that topic sentence. Maybe the writer thinks that they did incorporate a topic sentence, but you don't see it, so let the writer know that, and then they can revise it, incorporate something a little bit stronger. Right? The illustration and information. Here for the full marks, the writer offers clear support for his or her point using both personal experience and support from one of our writers. Now, it's not imperative that in this draft that you've used MLA formatting or the three-step method correctly. I do want you to add to your own draft kind of after you do this peer review process and build that. But some people have already tried, and if you've tried, it doesn't have to be technically correct at this point, but we should have a multitude of support for our point, right? The more points, the more places that we can show support for our point, the more persuasive we can become, because we show different sources that agree with what we're saying, right? So we really back ourselves up on 2 or 3 different categories, right? So really vary the support and incorporate more than one area of support for full marks. Right, for the almost there, the writer doesn't use clear support. Instead, they might rely on general information, right? So if it's a personal experience, the writer might say something like, when I was in high school, I didn't have good time management, and then move on. What we want is a specific instance where the writer lacked time management, and that lack of time management negatively impacted their goals. And I want a very specific instance in that regard, okay? And then 0 marks would be if the writer doesn't incorporate any support at all. Now, the most important part of the paragraph is here in the explanation. And so I want us to focus really deeply on that explanation. And so remember, we're trying to persuade our readers to adopt our skills. So really work to thoroughly explain how and why the skill or the mindset you identified in a topic sentence can and will help the student achieve success. You can talk about your own experience, how it helped you achieve success, or how you've seen others achieve success with this same skill, or how a writer achieve success with that same skill, and how the reader can then adopt that skill and enjoy that same type of success. Really work to make this about half of the paragraph should be this explanation portion. Right? Really nail that point and persuade the reader to adopt this situation. Right? The almost there, here the writer might tend toward the general, maybe something as, this will help you. Very general, right? We want to know how and why it will help us. So dig a little deeper and explore that. And for 0 points, the writer basically just says, do it or else. Okay? Now we want to be a little bit more persuasive and give our reader the choice to adopt what we are offering them, but to paint that picture so it seems silly for them to not adopt it. Okay? So please, if you have any questions, I have office hours today and tomorrow. Email me, always available for email, and I'm always willing to jump on Zoom and have a quick conference with you and look over one of your drafts. Uh, Try to have these peer reviews done by Wednesday, really about Wednesday or so that we can work on the second rough draft. I'm going to push that due date to Thursday to give us a little bit more time to work with it, and then I'll talk with you guys again on Thursday. But really shoot to have this rough draft done by Wednesday at midnight. Okay? Thank you again, and I'll talk soon.